Hi everybody, Mars here, the teaching professional at Southwick Park Golf Club. Yesterday I had a little chipping lesson with one of our members, Paul DeLucci, lovely bloke Paul, really struggling with his chipping. I did take a bit of before and after footage of what we did, but in hindsight I'm just going to show you the after footage because the two I got beforehand probably weren't his finest moments, and I want to try and keep his confidence high, which is one of the great challenges with short game problems. It's sometimes not the technique, it's more the apprehension around it. When I first started in golf, I turned pro with a guy called Steve Bryden, one of the best long iron players I've ever played with, fantastic player. Over the course of a few months he started to not be able to chip and ultimately ended up giving up golf and moving on to other things. And these things were purely in his head. We would be in the pro shop and he'd be flicking balls, I'd catch it and roll it back to him, and then after a while on the course it was almost like he'd been electrocuted every time, so it was almost have a quick jerky spasm at the ball. And yeah, that's hard to help someone with. I often say to some people, you need a sports psychologist rather than a golf pro, and I say it in jest, but I also say it in all seriousness, because if the technique's great but then you can't do it in front of with a ball in a bunker and a problem in front of you, then it is tricky. But there are some strategies. So going on from our little lesson with Paul, I'm going to just go through a few little things that may help you. We've done these a lot of times before, maybe. I've certainly covered it always in my short game clinics. So let's have a quick chipping 101, super simple, couple of little strategies for you. So number one, this left wrist can never hinge. The wrist hinges in chipping are the ones that on the hole either hit the ground before the ball or thin it, because once that wrist hinges, the leading edge comes off the ground. And the thing to never lose sight for in any chip is this leading edge is always going to be going down. There's no point in a chipping action where it comes up off the ground. So that's one, left wrist must remain firm. Number two, the weight must be more on your left side. If you lean back onto your right foot, similar things, hit behind the ball, fat it, all those other terrible things. So here's your first little strategy for that. I'm going to take a couple of balls here. Okay, so I'm just going to put a ball underneath my right foot. Get yourself into position, give yourself a nice lie, and I'm going to keep my weight off that ball as much best I can and stack up on my left side where I want it. Give me a nice firm chipping action, hitting downwards. Little strategy, firm left wrist, don't let the weight come back onto your right side. The decelerators, the people that fat it and leave it short, long and short, long, short, decelerated downswing, that's a killer. And that can be the nervy people, especially if you've got a tricky shot over a bunker or something like that. So here's your thing for chipping and distance control. No matter how big or short your chip shot is, the backswing and the follow through are going to be equal distances. So if it's just a little dink onto a green, it might be that much. It's called 1-and-1 chipping. So no matter how far you go back, you follow through the same amount. And that will stop you decelerating and help you hitting down and through it. A couple of other small things that will help. Backswing path. You can't set up really square to a chip and swing it back too much on the inside. That's where your shanks might come from as the club comes back in this way too quickly. My one tip for that is, however open you decide to stand with your feet, and it can be quite open, especially for like a bit of a lob shot. However open you stand, that's the path of your backswing. So if I'm that open, I'm this much on the outside. It will give you softer, higher, sort of more floaty chips. So back to Paul and my little trying to strategy for him. This seems to be nervy chippers, and I don't know what makes it happen, but I suppose it's probably like being an addicted gambler or something. You just can't pass the bookies, or I don't know, it's in you a little bit. But this is what was happening with Paul. He would stand up on these chips almost like he was completing a shot, and I think in some ways he was probably trying to do that. So me just sort of thinking on the spot a little bit, well, let me just try and calm his leg action down. And we had Paul feet together chipping. So still weight on the left side, still firm left wrist, still positively pushing through. And in the moment when I left him, things were going pretty well. So maybe we'll check in with him later. I might post his you know, later swing and not the first swing. So I think that'd be a bit mean, because back onto confidence and chipping again is tricky. It's tricky. Just, I suppose the confidence will come with a good solid action that you repeat, and then the same things start to happen. And then I think you've just got to, over the shot, is take a bit of a breath and have some practice swings. Don't just walk up and have a go at it. See what your relationship is like with the ground. Yeah, I like that. That feels good. I'm hitting the same spot. Now I feel probably quite confident to step in and do it. So, you know, we'll have some more short game clinics if anyone hasn't been on one and wants to try one. For not too much money, you get an hour's worth of chips, pitches, bunker shots, and we try and finish on some flop shots at the end. So, and if you can't make that, come and see me for an hour. Our short game lesson can transform people's scoring, and this is ultimately where you do score. You can hit 2 nice shots up to the edge of the green. The good players will be up and down. The ones struggling might be having more than one chip, which you don't want to do. So thanks for listening and watching, and I'll see you all next week. Well done.